Hello and welcome to Core Finance CEO Interviews. I am Bonnie Hughes. Our guest today is Red Pine Exploration. They have some very interesting projects in Wawa, Ontario, which is in the prolific Greenstone Belt. They are surrounded by 7 past or current producing mines. And here to tell us all about the project is Mia Boiridy, who is Investor Relations and Corporate Communications. Hello, Mia. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Bonnie.
You just put out an updated resource or an additional resource to your current one. Do you want to give us an overview of that?
Yes, so we've been working on this project since 2014, and the aim was to increase the resource that was already existing on the property, to bring it from a low-grade, kind of medium-scale, not very economic resource to something that is much more interesting, and that's what we've done. So we've just released a new resource for the Saluga deposit, and it now sits at 600,000 ounces at an average grade of 5.25 grams per ton, between surface and 350 meters depth. So relatively shallow, but very high grade and can be accessed using existing underground infrastructure.
That's very good. And you also had a resource on the Minto, which was about 100,000?
That's correct. So we made a new discovery as well that is kind of adjacent to Saluga, to the south of it. And that's a brand new resource, 100,000 ounces at an average grade of 6.8 grams per ton. Again, between surface and 300 meters depth.
And how many previous producing mines do you have on your projects at the moment?
Well, what's really interesting about what we have is that we have 8 past producing mines. These are historical mines that operated in the late 1800s or early 1900s. So they weren't very big operations. They were small artisanal mines, but they produce about 120,000 ounces of gold at 9 grams per ton. So when we started working on the project, we knew that there was some high-grade gold that could be found on the property.
So when you acquired these projects, did you have some historical data from previous companies that had done exploration on them?
Yeah, so there was the historical data from the 1900s early in terms of what had been taken out at MNDM or Ministry of Northern Development and Mines reports that were there. But also there was the latest operation operated in the 1980s, and it was Citadel Mine. And they tried to drill and mine the Saluga deposit, but they weren't very successful. But luckily, we were able to reprocess 42,000 meters of historical core that they had left behind. And we found a lot of gold in that core that had just been dismissed because it didn't look like it held any gold. It wasn't your typical quartz veining. It's a diorite that is very altered, so it looks like waste rock. But when we sampled it and we reassayed it, we got values up to 109 grams per ton. So that information we were able to add into our new resource.
And that's because the technology for assaying core now is much better than it was back in the day.
It was, and also because our understanding of the mineralogy also has changed. So at the time, people were just chasing quartz veins. And we've realized that there's gold in all the lithologies on our property package. And again, in some rocks that wouldn't have looked like they were promising rocks. So we went in, our chief geologist is quite astute when it comes to that. He developed kind of parameters in terms of looking at the different minerals. And when we came across those, when people were at the core lab and actually looking and surveying the core, when they saw a certain signal and a certain assemblage of mineralization, if they sampled it and sent it to the assays, more likely than not, we were going to intersect some gold.
And what are you currently working on the project at the moment?
So we've identified 2 resources, but because there's 8 past producing mines, there's 6 other resources that can be defined. So that's what we're kind of focusing on right now, is that we made a discovery at the old Cooper mine. So there's a new Cooper structure that we think is similar to Minto. So we're doing some trenching there now, and we're going to start drilling. We also did some drilling around the Grace Darwin mine as well, where initially we had great intersections. So we're going to focus on that as well. So we're doing some trenching and we're going to follow up with some drilling there as well. And because the resource at Saluga is very shallow, we want to prove that there's continuity at depth. So again, there's an opportunity there to increase that resource to above 1 million ounces if we go a little bit deeper.
And there was some metallurgical studies done in the past on the project?
Correct. So historically, recoveries are about 95 or 96%. Part of what we're doing this summer is we've brought in 2 new people on our board of directors, and these are guys that have mining experience. They're mining engineers. They come, Drew Annual comes from Detour Gold. He brought the Detour Gold mine from Advanced Exploration Project to a working mine. And Andrew Bauman has experience at Barrick, worked many years at Hemlo. So these 2 guys are doing an internal scoping study. And part of the study will be to look at the metallurgy as well and try to figure out what the recoveries could be for us. But we think it'll be around the same 95% recovery.
And with all of these sort of satellite areas that you're looking at, would you focus on putting into production the one that you have the resource on, or you're still working on that strategy?
We're still working on the strategy. So the focus, I think, until the end of the year will be to try and prove up and look at what kind of mineralization we have at Cooper and at Grace Darwin, and also improve and add continuity to Saluga at depth. That's going to be the immediate kind of focus. And then we'll continue on next year with trying to define the rest of the exploration targets. So, but at the same time, the internal scoping study that Drew and Andrew are doing is going to help kind of determine how we move forward in terms of our exploration.
And with regard to your budget for exploration, are you funded for the year to complete what you would like to complete?
Yes, we are fully funded right now. We have about $2.6 million in the coffers, so that will keep us in good stead for at least a year.
That's excellent. I mean, it's always good to have money in the bank because you don't want to have to go out and raise money and dilute if you can hopefully put out more results and increase your share price.
That's correct.
Speaking of results, do you have some assay results pending?
Not yet, so we're still doing the trenching, but as soon as drilling commences, it should commence in about a week or 2. Then assays, of course, the samples will be sent in, and then we should be getting results relatively soon afterwards. So this fall, I think later this summer in August and in the fall, we should have pretty regular results coming in and hitting the news.
Okay, and will there be news on anything else in the meantime before the drill results come out?
No, I think in terms of just maybe reiterating what the strategy is, and when the internal scoping study comes out, I think signifying to the market what is our approach moving forward. I think that will have, although the internal scoping study will not be published and released publicly, it will help devise our strategy, and that will be released to the public in news releases.
And considering the stage of development or exploration that you're at, you have a very good shareholder base of some pretty heavy hitters. How did you get them to come on board?
Well, we've been very successful in terms of our fundraising. So we have Mackenzie that came in unsolicited last spring. So April 2018, they came in with a $1.6 million investment. Again, they believe in the project and they believe in what we've done and what we've accomplished. And I think they're going to continue on being a partner for us as we move forward. Goodman and Company came in December of 2017. Again, $1 million within a $2.9 million raise. So again, I think people are now seeing how this project is evolving and seeing the blue sky and the fact that we do have a potentially a multi-million ounce deposit there, pretty good grades with good economics, and that the possibility of bringing this into operation is becoming real.
Yes, because you are not too far from Hemlo's producing mine, which has been producing for the past 30 years and have been quite a prolific mine. So they must have taken that into consideration.
There's that, yes, and also the fact that we have Island Gold, which is our kind of our closest neighbor, which is doing very well as well. Started as an open pit and now is going underground, is mining right now, I think, at 900 meters, but they've shown that mineralization extends to 2 kilometers. It's about the same thing that we have as well. Our mineralization is hosted within shear zones that we know extend to 2 kilometers. So even though we've identified 700,000 ounces subsurface right now, the potential to extend it at depth is there.
And there's also the potential for consolidation of all of these mines in this prolific gold belt, potentially.
Exactly. So we realize now that this is a gold camp. It's not just a one deposit project. It's going to be multiple deposits, so potentially 8 separate deposits. So combined could be multi-million ounces at surface that then have the potential to grow at depth.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to speaking with you again and hearing all about your progress.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. It was a pleasure.
And thank you very much for joining us. Please keep an eye on Red Pine Exploration and follow their news flow, and have a very profitable day.